All right, so speaking of strategic partners and a guy who has, who's just really done an amazing job at building out sales architecture for brands, especially like supplements, health companies, is Tom Delauer. And I wanted to ask him to come out for a couple of reasons. One is, I don't feel like there's anyone doing health videos as well as he's currently doing it, marrying them with advertising and YouTube. Like, he's doing a brilliant job. Now, that's not to say no one else is, but you know, him and I go way back. And so when I reached out to him, it was very strategical, because I believe if you don't have a guy like Tom, or you're not hiring someone like him or her, my belief is that you need to get somebody in front of your brand to set your brand up properly. And so this whole talk, and I have an idea what he's talking about, but I'm going to be taking notes just like everyone else, is set up with the intention in mind that this is just another pillar that we got to have in our business. So with that said, let's get up for Tom Delauer.
Thanks, man.
Appreciate it. Cool. My kids, by the way, he's come and stayed at my house for a few days, and my kids are always be like, "Where's your friend with the muscles?" Like my little ones. I'm like, "Right here. What are you talking about? I'm your friend."
Actually, how Ed and I actually met was, you know how we connected? You were talking about myelin sheath. You were talking about nerves, and I think I was the only person in the room that actually answered what the myelin sheath was, and it was love at first sight. Hey, I don't know if I either have the worst time slot or the best, when everyone's either like super tired after lunch or they're gonna feel really, really good. So I'm gonna hope it's the latter. But all right, guys, so basically what I wanna talk about today, when I put the title up and I say kind of using old school media, before I make some sense of that, I have to explain kind of what I used to do. So before I was ever in internet marketing or anything related to selling supplements or selling food products or anything like that, I had an ancillary lab services company. I sold it to a private equity firm in 2012, 2013. So my background was more so in kind of the VC world and really in the ancillary lab services space. So how I got into this world was really by having a vast network of physicians that worked underneath me and realizing that I could leverage that list. And this was way back in 2013. So that's kind of my backstory and how I got into where I was. Now at that time, I was 280 pounds, and that's kind of how I made my transformation and how my brand was built. So when I say old school media, we used to buy a lot of TV media. We used to do things like that, and that really helped me understand we need to go back to the drawing board with our video psychology and our buying psychology. So I'm gonna give you a lot of tangible things today. I'm not a media buyer. I don't claim to be one. I work with some amazing guys that make the magic happen, but what I'm good at is the video psychology and helping understand how to create video that's going to ultimately convert and get somewhere. See if I can figure out how to use this thing. So the things that we're going to cover today. So I've come up with what I call the 3 laws of video marketing. Really, really good, tangible things that you can implement as soon as you leave from here. Talking about things like random point of entry, overcoming viewer fatigue, using a certain strategy that is really good for hooking, like actually engaging your audience or engaging whoever you're targeting right out the gate. Also ranking higher for videos. And I'm not talking just basic SEO strategy. I'm talking how do you start curating the kind of content that you're going to create to get maximum viewership, but also to intrigue whoever your buyers are going to be, or just your audience if you're trying to grow a following. Then of course, implementing some of that into email video strategy to increase your lifetime value. Also a little bit in the way of influencer strategies and owning content versus just seeing influencers as affiliates, really finding ways that you can monetize that a little bit further. Okay, now I put my notes in very long-winded notes because I knew that you guys are going to want slides, and it makes that a lot easier. That way you're not having to snap a million pictures. But the whole idea of my philosophy is the more that we remain in front of the customer, the more leeway we have to be a little bit more aggressive with our marketing. And when I say that, I don't mean like, you know, smash and grab terrible stuff. I mean, if you are constantly in front of someone, it's simple psychology that they are less likely to end up having a negative connotation or a negative feeling about you if you're constantly putting positive content in front of them. Now, I also wanted to apologize ahead of time for me always being on your news feeds, because I know that that's probably the case, and you guys are probably like, holy crap, go away. But we also have to remember that a relationship is formed off of simple repetition. So as much as it's just kind of a grind, and it is a little bit repetitive to just keep on going back and forth and doing the same kind of content over and over and over again, that repetition is what's going to ultimately build rapport. I mean, how many times have you guys ever been in a situation where you meet someone and you can almost say, you know, a couple months later, I don't know, he kind of grows on me. Well, I'm hoping that by constantly putting content out there that I eventually grow on you. And does it piss some people off? You bet your ass it does. But it also makes a lot of followers. And if you want to make an omelet, you got to break a few eggs. So screw it. So what I say is, you know, we'll run fairly aggressive ad campaigns and have a strong CTA that really put a bite on the customer, but only if 3/4 of the content surrounding those ads are value-based and are content pieces. And I'll explain that more in the next slide. And that really kind of gets into rule number 2, which is what I call the 3/4 law. So the whole idea behind the 3/4 law is really simple. It's for every one strong call to action video that you guys make, okay, one that might put a bite on a customer, and this really plays on a lot of what Ezra was saying too, because like, you can apply these principles of what he was talking about, and it works tremendously. So 3 good pieces of content that have 0 call to action whatsoever. Your call to action could be something in the headline if you want it to be, or if you want to boost it or you want to run an ad with it, you know, run it to learn more, but make it a very, very soft approach. Purely content. You know, when it comes down to, you know, going backwards on acquisition, kind of reframe that to how you would do your content. Be willing to invest in those 3 pieces of content that you will go negative on to create in terms of, you know, employment costs or creating the value or whatever. And then for every 3 that you create, 1 video becomes that good, strong hook, line, sinker that you want. So breaking down your content strategy forces you to create more content, but also binds you to a law of good content, okay? So you're essentially creating almost an arrangement with yourself where you're committed to creating this. By setting it up and giving yourself these parameters, you've given yourself a law to live by with it. It's like, okay, I've created an ad. Well, shit, I gotta create 3 more videos now too. And honestly, I've tested it through and through and through, and this just seems to be the magic number. It seems like that is where we wanna be. So the 3/4 law applies to value content and ad content throughout the video itself. So what I mean is that 3/4 law isn't just about creating 3 videos and 1 ad. It applies to how you actually build your video too. The first 3/4 of the video is all about education and getting a message across, okay? The last 4th is about engaging the viewer somehow. And when I say engaging them, getting them to do something, okay? For an ad, it's the wind up to your CTA. Hey, if you want to learn a little bit more, I invite you to come on over and check out my full-length video that's going to explain in a lot more detail what exactly I'm talking about, blah, blah, blah. Okay, so for an ad, it's like that. But for a content piece, it's the same exact strategy because the psychology is the same. So, you know, instead of looking at how you're creating a video as this is an ad, I need to completely put my ad hat on versus content piece, I need to put my content hat on. No, it's all the same. It's just following the same formula. So for a content piece, it's the wrap up to solidify them as a follower or as a way to get them a little bit more engaged. All right, so rule number 2 continued here. So, and I know, again, I apologize. I know these are long, but I figured it's just better to give you this. So the general practice is to create 3 videos that are front-facing for 1 successful video ad campaign that's running. So you also want to do this like when you take an ad campaign that is successful. Let's say you have one that is just happens to be an awareness campaign that's just doing really, really well. It's getting you a lot of leads, it's getting you a lot of audiences, and it's allowing you to do what you need to do. Well, then in that same vein, create 3 pieces of content that back that up. So boost your front-facing content to similar audiences to what your most successful video ad campaigns are running to. So when you say, I'll give you a hypothetical situation here, you don't want to make it seem, again, like I put here, like you're targeting the same people with your value pieces and your ads in order to avoid sort of that subscriber burn. Like you don't want to say, okay, I've got this video ad, it's crushing to a 25 to 34-year-old female demographic in Wisconsin. I wouldn't suggest that you take all your content pieces and boost it directly to them, because then you are going to face some kind of subscriber burn, some kind of banner blindness where they're just seeing you all the time, and that's where you start to get pissed off when you see Thomas Delauer all over your newsfeed. But when you set it up in a situation where you can actually be kind of going a little bit broader just from where that target is, so if it's a 35 to 40-year-old, 35 to 44, something like that, take that same strategy and broaden it just a little bit, but still target your content pieces similarly to how you would target your ads. And that way you can build on with what Ezra was talking about and really maximize the results of that. Does that make sense? Yeah, it's kind of a convoluted explanation because it's kind of wrap around. But, and then, of course, provide overwhelming value, which is cliche. Okay, so rule number 3. So this goes back to good old-fashioned like video psychology days, which one of the biggest turnoffs in video is actually predictability. It's not, you know, some people will say it's a multitude of things, but in reality, it's predictability. If you are watching a video, subconsciously, you start to tune out if they start the same way every time. Hey, it's Thomas Delauer with blah, blah, blah. Eventually, subconsciously, you're tuning me out. You've already tuned me out in that first 3 seconds just because I'm freaking repeating myself. And you're like, does this guy ever have a different way to introduce a subject? So I also suggest avoid heavy branding in the first 3 seconds, even if it's what your branding peeps will tell you. Okay, branding people will tell you that you want your brand front and center so that the first 3 seconds of a video, they see your brand. You know, that's gonna work out great because even if they don't click, they're still seeing your brand. Well, the thing is, it doesn't quite work like that. You actually want more of a strategic punch. It's more of a quality over quantity kind of thing. And if you actually wait that first 3 seconds for them to watch the first 3 seconds and then boom, hit them with your branding, then you have a lot more power and you have a lot more brand awareness capability. So this doesn't necessarily apply for a conversion campaign, but we're in kind of this world of awareness campaigns now. You know, when companies get to be 7, 8, 9 million, they really get a lot of benefit out of these branding campaigns, these awareness campaigns. So this one's for you. You get a lot more benefit out of doing it this way. Now I'm gonna get into kind of a fun one. This fun tool known as the random point of entry. I actually learned this one a long time ago when I was back in the healthcare world, and it stuck with me, and it's pretty awesome. So basically the random point of entry is a creative way to get out of your own head to create an awesome hook that works very, very well for video. And what I mean by that is, whenever we're creating videos, we have, actually, let me, by show of hands, how many of you guys are using video strategy in more of a talking head form? Anyone? Okay, good number. So definitely going educational value, everything like that. There's different strategies with B-roll and stuff like that, where you're just running like videos with some text and stuff like that. A little bit of different strategy. I'm talking head here. So if you don't captivate them in that first little bit of time, of course, we know that's the hook. But what's interesting is that whenever we're creating a hook, we have a tendency to want to just stay in the same vein of what we're already talking about. I do a lot of stuff in the intermittent fasting world, and it would be very easy for me to talk about just the initial benefits of intermittent fasting or the initial benefits of ketosis. But instead, I try to wrap it around. I'm going to give you an example on the next page, and then I'm going to try to freestyle market a little bit and test it with you guys. So then you use that phrase to identify what the plot would be. So you pick something that would be totally random, and it's all going to make sense in a second when I show you the example. Pick something that would be totally random, something that someone would say in a room that would catch your attention. And take that, find the subject matter of whatever that sentence is, and then somehow try to make that relevant to whatever you're talking about. Again, it's going to make sense. Example, what is something you would hear that would make you turn your head? Is that lion loose at the zoo? Something that caught your attention, okay? The subject or plot would be something to the tune of ferocious lion. A relevant application to your subject matter. So you've always wanted to be the lion in the gym, but you have to make sure that your nutrition is aligned to make that possible. That sounds like a super simple hook, and it's like, oh, that's kind of lame. But what it did is it brought me out of my head for a minute, and it's doing the same thing to your viewers. And I promise you, it works. And so I'm gonna ask, let's just do, I'm gonna pick a random table. Okay, these guys right here. Okay, if you are in a situation where, let's just do something random. Let's say you're in the lunchroom just right next door, and someone says something what is something that someone could have said in that lunchroom that would have made you just like turn your head like, what the hell did that person just say? Okay, 3 seconds, 1, 2, 3, don't think about it. Someone. There's a hurricane outside. All right, cool. Give me a product. Shampoo? Okay. How many times has it looked like your hair just went through an absolute, or how many times has it been, actually that's a good one. How many times have you walked outside and someone looks at you like you just got hit by a hurricane? You know that your hair is a total mess. Well, I'm gonna explain to you exactly how you can utilize XYZ product to help you blah, blah, blah. So it gets you out of that zone, and it gets you that creative spark that you need. So hurricane and hair just seems to work out pretty good. You probably made that subconscious connection. Okay, so again, why does this work? Stops the predictability, number one, okay? It gets you as the creator out of your own head. and it starts to create a true pattern interrupt. I sincerely think that one of the reasons that I had success as a personal brand was because I was a pattern interrupt to begin with. I was a muscular dude, not nearly as yoked as a picture of Dr. Charles, and I'm not going to put a yoked picture of me on there because I can't compete with that. But basically, I was talking science. I was talking in a way that people didn't really understand coming from a fitness person. That was just not something they had seen. So it's all about pattern interrupt. It's all about kind of making the left and right brain kind of cross paths and be like, you know, record scratch for a second. So the video, we need to somehow reset the viewer every 8 seconds. Okay, so I have a production team back in LA, and that's what we focus on. I'm in LA, so I'm surrounded by kind of all the weirdness of LA, which means, you know, some of the Hollywood stuff, take it for good and bad. And the general rule is 8 seconds. 8 seconds, you need to constantly be changing. I would argue that on the internet it moves even faster, but when you're creating a longer content, you constantly need to be getting them to shift gears every 8 seconds. Okay, so you would cut to B-roll, maybe you'd cut to something else, or you'd change your pattern every 8 seconds, because that is about how long it takes before the brain shuts off. If you've ever watched a talking head video, or you look at Dr. Axe, who started to copy some of my video strategy in terms of production, which I thought was funny, which was looking at how he would go from talking head on to cut to camera B from a side view like every 6 or 8 seconds. He did it phenomenally, and it worked. And you started seeing like his engagement on his videos going up. It truly does work. So whenever you're filming anything, you want to try to do whatever you can to have a 2-camera setup or a 2-phone setup, or at least cut in and cut out and crop in and crop out every 8 seconds. It will increase your engagement. My videos, I can speak for myself on YouTube at least, I went from an average watch time of 3 minutes and 45 seconds to 5 minutes and 15 seconds in like 75 days, just by changing that out. And that was pretty amazing, by cutting it down from 12 seconds down to 8. So this will help you with ads, at least when you're trying to get them down the pipeline a little bit more. Okay, getting ideas for videos. When it comes down to creating massive amounts of content, okay, because this is what you definitely need to be doing. And this goes for blogs too, but with video, it can be really difficult. We get this blockage where we just don't know what kind of video to create. It's really like, oh my gosh, there's so much information out there. How do I distill this down? How do I create content? How do I get something that's gonna rank? First of all, don't just wing it. Be strategic about it. Until you have enough engagement and enough robust momentum and inertia to get you down the path with a subscriber base or a following, or even your custom audiences, don't just wing it. Use the data from Google Trends, use AdWords, use all this stuff to help you out. BuzzSumo is a super awesome tool. In fact, Ed actually taught me that way back when for a whole different purpose. And then Keyword Keg is another great tool if you don't already use that. And what I do is I combine various keywords to make myself appear like a subject matter expert. I actually am very unhealthy. I have no idea how to eat right, and I never work out. But that's a joke. So anyway, so you try to find, it's like a delayed, I don't know, Ed, I think I got the sleepy crew, I don't know. So I try to find one key topic. I use, in this case, I use cryptocurrency just because it's hot, even though it's changed now. We can't really push that on Facebook, of course. But just wanted a good example. Find your big overarching topic you want to talk about. For me, it's generally ketosis, it's fasting, it's inflammation. That's kind of my world. Okay, that is my overarching topic. That's cool. That's going to get you some visibility and some ranking, whether it's SEO or it's going to get you some views on Facebook because it's just trending and it's hot. But find a secondary keyword. And this isn't so much about ranking for SEO. This is more about trying to find that niche that's going to watch a longer duration of your video. So layering your content strategy, layering your topics, layering your keywords. So cryptocurrency, secondary topic. What's another thing you hear a lot of people talking about? Real estate investment. So example would be how cryptocurrency is affecting the real estate market. You just created a video for yourself. Boom. Okay, you do this 5-6 times in a given 10-day period. You've got a nice curation of content that's going to work, and from there you can identify what's going to be an amazing ad and what's going to be an amazing sales video. You have your litmus test right in front of you with all the analytics. So pretty cool. That way you're not just shotgunning, you're doubling down on truly what is trending and what's going to actually get you some views. Next up was using video for email and indoctrination sequences. This is something that I'm sure a lot of you guys are doing, and I just wanted to be able to touch on this a little bit because it's something that has made a big impact in a lot of businesses that I've worked on, including my own, is conditioning your lists to open video right out the gate. Okay, if this is the direction that you want to go with your brand, where you actually want to get them to watch more video and you want them to trust you as a video resource, then you need to condition them right out the gate on email. Because they're used to seeing it on Facebook, they're used to seeing it on YouTube, they're used to seeing it on social media in general. But if we can actually get them to watch video, and I think technology is going in a way too where we're starting to be able to embed video in email, which is awesome. And if we could start doing that more, then it's going to change the game in general. But with the algorithms changing, we can't always guarantee that they're going to be seeing the videos even with its certain paid traffic. It's changing. So emails 1 to 2 are always going to want to be your product delivery. They're always going to be kind of your indoctrination emails. I don't suggest putting video there, simply because step 1 is delivering a product or delivering your lead magnet or whatever you need to do. You don't want to be throwing yourself right at them with video content right out the gate. But emails 3 through 5 in any kind of early sequence can condition them to opening videos from you. So changing the game from doing an FAQ page to doing a how to use your product video page. Okay, this makes a tremendous difference in not only your customer support, but also makes a big difference in your open rates and your click-through as you go on down the line. And when we're talking about the business of lifetime value, you want to be increasing these open rates. Trust me, if you can get them to click over to a video, then you're much more likely to get them to convert later on down the line as well. So this has been big for us. Whenever we mail anything within my personal brand, it's always linked to a video. So my email list knows that when they get an email from me, they better be in a situation where they can sit down and watch a video. And I think we've seen a pretty distinct increase in the click-through rate over 2 videos as time goes on because they're just used to it. So I just recommend doing that as a general rule. Okay, I want to spend a little bit of time on influencer marketing just because I guess by default I'm an influencer, but I don't really consider myself one because that's not what I'm in this business to do, but I've sort of manufactured myself as an influencer simply because of paid traffic and what we do. And I don't mean this in any negative connotation when I say influencers are affiliates and that's how they should be viewed, but I think a lot of times people start looking at the influencer market. Actually, I'm going to back up for a second. Is anyone in here working with influencers and having them create content for them? Okay. So, and then how many people are using influencers just for drops on Instagram and stuff like that? Anyone? Do we have a big influencer audience here? Okay, well, I don't know if you guys know the brand Kettle and Fire Bone Broth? Did you know that, they have not done any paid traffic on Facebook up until this year? They were built entirely on influencers and they were built entirely on organic growth and organic search. So pretty darn amazing, and they're a pretty impressive company. And my point in saying that is influencers can be used properly and they can generate a lot of revenue for your company, but also know that when you're dealing with influencers, they're not business people. So they're going to shotgun it. They're not going to necessarily give you what you need, or not going to give you the information that you really need to know in order to make an adequate data-driven decision. You're going to talk to most influencers. You're going to say, hey, I want you to run this email, or I want you to run this post on Instagram, or I want you to put this video on YouTube, and they're going to be like, $10,000. You'd be like, okay, give me some data to back that up. You'll be like, well, my fans really like me, and okay, that doesn't really help too much. So what you need to do is you need to look at influencers in either 2 ways. You look at them as affiliates that can generate some commission. Sometimes it's just them paying a flat fee, but I highly suggest you do it. But the other thing is paying for the content so that you actually own it. So this is a strategy that we've employed, and a strategy that I've seen a lot of people start to employ, which is, guys, we all know as business people, as marketers, that the money and the value is truly in actually owning the asset. Why do we want to rent it? Unless you're doing an email drop and you're treating it like an affiliate network and you're treating it as an affiliate relationship, you may as well own the content. So you don't necessarily have to in-house that stuff, but go find someone that is already making a huge name for themselves. Find someone that has 500,000 YouTube followers. Find someone that has a bunch of Instagram followers. and leverage the fact that they've already put the blood, sweat, tears, and money into building a brand. People know who their face is or what their face is. They know who they are. Pay them a day rate and own that content. Leverage it, run your campaigns with their face. And then if you want to, you can talk to them, and sometimes they'll even give you their custom audiences. Sometimes because they don't necessarily, I'm not saying you take advantage of them, but sometimes they will say, yeah, if this gets me in front of more people, I'm for it. A lot of these influencers will do anything just to increase their exposure. And again, this sounds kind of crass, but I guess coming out of the print world, which kind of how I got my start in the fitness industry, in the magazine world, that's what they did. I mean, do you think that a cover model on Muscle and Fitness magazine is getting a big check? Hell no. You know what I used to get to shoot muscle magazine covers? Sometimes if I was lucky, I'd get lunch. Okay, and it usually wasn't what I could eat. It was usually like something that I couldn't even eat on a diet. So it didn't make a lot of sense. So they did that for years and years and years and years, but not a whole lot of people are doing it yet. So go out there and find the influencers and get them to create content for you, and that you own that content and you teach them the principles that I've taught you today, or you at least explain it to them so that they can film it that way, and you get these conversion campaigns. And you're gonna end up paying an influencer $500 or $1,000 for a day rate, and you can knock out 6, 7 videos. That's a much more powerful utilization of time than paying them $10,000 to do a drop on Instagram. So that's my story, and I'm sticking to it. So in general, I'm gonna leave a little bit of time for questions here, but we wanna be creating content that is hard. Simply embrace the challenge. I mean, it's probably not the total answer that you guys wanna hear, but at the end of the day, creating content is kind of a bitch, and it's not easy, and there's a lot of ways that you can leverage it and create more. But the reality is, Ed talked about the leapfrog approach, and I don't have good hops, but I can usually blaze through stuff. So rather than leapfrogging, I just said, I'm gonna build a moat around my business where no one's gonna touch me with how much content is created. I'm gonna bulldoze my way to the top. And I plowed through it that way. So that's the other strategy. So with content, it's a slow, hard grind, but it makes a lot more sense in the long term if that's the strategy that you're after. So if you're gonna saturate Facebook and YouTube with ads, make sure that every time they see you, you aren't selling something. That's the biggest mistake that I've seen people make. And Tommy, you probably have seen that on YouTube a lot, right? It's just like, come on guys, like give me some value here, but it's like straight up just going for the jugular right out the gate. Like especially on YouTube, where it's a very educated buyer that's searching for something and looking for something specific. It's not the way we want to go. So just remember that 3/4 law. Remember contrast. Again, if 75% of what they see of your brand is positive, engaging content, they're less likely to be put off by seeing your ads, okay? And I know from running customer support, when you're running any kind of membership site or anything like that, you have your fair share of customers that are irritated, that don't like it, they just got a rebill. We all know it happens. We try to avoid it. It doesn't matter how much we put in bold print and red and yellow and everything that they're going to get charged after 30 or 60 days or whatever, they still end up ticked off. But if you're constantly remaining in front of them, they know that you're not trying to just scam them, okay? Someone that is trying to just go and like rip people off is not gonna continue to put their face on the interwebs. So just, that's a general rule there. Create front-facing content that your customers also see is going to keep your buyers trusting you. So that's the #1 rule for lifetime value, is just stay in front of them. That is me. So, got a couple of minutes.
All right. Tell us about like how so regarding content, have you created your own studio in your own house or?
No, it's not my house. So yeah, I've created a studio, so I figured, okay, I shoot a lot of content, it's time to just build a studio and just create a site. Built a studio.
You did?
Yeah, it's a separate studio. So.
Awesome. So let's talk about this for a second, because I think, don't you think one of the easiest things about creating content is having like one location set up all the time?
Totally.
You show up, it's done. Is it like an apartment?
No, so I just got a warehouse space, I gutted it. I had some friends over the Food Network, so I bought an old Food Network set.
You did?
It's kind of a rustic kind of layout, and then I built it out how I wanted to. Where we're living in Southern California, we haven't bought down there. We own a couple homes in Northern California, but we were just written down there, and we're like, we kind of miss remodeling. So my wife and I just rolled up our sleeves and like, okay, let's build the studio.
Yeah.
So I've got a nice little production team there. It makes life easy. My team's been with me for a long time, so they understand my language. They understand how to create video that converts based on how I'm talking. They know when I'm getting passionate on camera and everything like that. But building the studio that was one of the best investments that I made. So if you're going to be doing a lot of video content, you're going to be working with influencers, I would highly suggest just doing it. It's a small investment, but it's because it's so big and tangible, it's like it seems like this overwhelming, daunting thing. Just get a $2,000 a month warehouse space and convert it, and just build your own studio and just be your own boss and create your own content. Don't pay these exorbitant fees that video production companies charge.
Yeah, and then what's your team look like?
So it's pretty, I run pretty lean as far as the production side goes. So I've got 3 full-time videographers who also act as editors, and I've got 2 other editors on top of that
Wow.
are part-time as editors. And then I've got 2 people on content that are just like helping me out with the research side of things. So for example, I come up with the ideas, right? We can find those 2 layering topics and those trending topics. And then I'll push it over to my main researcher who will dig into those topics. He'll get me all the scholarly articles and get me everything that I need to back it up.
Oh, really? Cool.
And then, the day before I film, I just glance over that stuff. And we're usually working with subject matter that I'm already semi-fluent in.
Yep.
So that's kind of the other rule with the influencers. You want to be in people that are at least going to be subject matter experts, so you're not teaching them something totally foreign.
Awesome. We got a couple quick questions. Let's see. We'll go.
Yeah. This is fun. I kind of like this thing.
I would love to know like what your overhead is for that production team with editing, videography, and then how much you film.
Yeah, okay, so 2-part question for sure. So the overhead's not nearly as bad as you would think. So I'm in California, so wages are definitely a little bit higher. I would say, month over month, I'm probably like about 45-ish, for, that's my editing team, it's everything. So I mean, it's really not too bad. I would say, with everything. So it's, that's factoring in all my additional advertising costs on YouTube. So I'd say like if I were to cut it down to just the studio and just the team, probably 22, 23. Yeah, and then so that's the thing. So I consolidate. So I will usually do a batch filming day, like 1 day a week, where I just obliterate it. And as you well know, it's a grind. And we all get into the situation where, as entrepreneurs, it doesn't matter how much money we're making. It doesn't matter how much success we have. When you feel like you have to be confined to anything, it makes you go crazy. And when you start thinking like, oh my gosh, even if someone is going to pay me $27 million to stand in front of a camera today, the fact that I have to be somewhere at some specific time drives me crazy. And I think every single person in this room as an entrepreneur probably got into this for some subconscious reason because you were just like, get me out of this box. So usually 1 day a week, but it depends. If I have to shoot a bunch of commercials or if I have to shoot a bunch of other stuff, you guys probably I work with Six Pack Abs, used to be Six Pack Shortcuts, kind of came in and JV'd with them. So we create a lot of content. So lately it's been 2 days. But I'm going to ask a question to your question. How many days a week do you shoot? Yeah, how many days a week are you filming?
Same as you, just crank it out. Like you're in go mode and you just crank for 8 hours in 1 day. But lately it's just been whenever we need a live, I just go live.
Live is a great strategy. And I was going to implement that into my slide deck, but I didn't want to dilute it too much. But yeah, you kill it with lives. And live is just, especially with the algorithm changing, that's the one thing I will say. I will cross into the Facebook world for a second. Lives have seemed to survive. It seems like organic reach has dropped on a lot of things, but lives have still seemed to persevere. Also leveraging ManyChat to seed your lives to increase reach. It's a much faster way to get, hey, I'm going to go live in 10 minutes. Yeah.
Hi.
Questions?
Thank you very much. I wanted to drill down one click lower on influencers. And specifically, do you look for and reach out to who you want? Do you ever use something like Get Heartbeat or Influencer.co for like a platform of influencers? And then my follow-up question is from a video perspective, are you asking them to actually film with their own phone and send you the file when you talk about owning the assets? Or are you inviting them into your location?
It's a good question. So the first part to that is, yes, layer different platforms and layer different ways of identifying influencers, definitely. And then try to geo-target them because it kind of bridges into the next part of the question, which is layering them into my geographic area. So I don't have to be present to have someone shoot content. And it depends if someone is shooting content that's going to be a conversion campaign or if it's going to be content. If it's going to be a conversion campaign, unfortunately, I need to be there because I think I'm the only one in my office that can really get that messaging down. But if it's just content, just have them come in and film. And you just have them sign a simple, and I can show you an example, just a simple release that's basically saying, yeah, like you have rights to this content. Like you can do whatever you want with it within these guidelines. I mean, you're not going to do anything like bad. I mean, you're just running it with that. Yeah, or if they're a subject matter expert, then usually try to let them pick the topic, because part of the success of video is having true passion come through. So even if it's someone that it's a niched market, if there's someone that is the thought leader in that industry, they're going to be passionate about it and they're going to be known, and that's your targeting already. You're already going to be talking to somebody that knows who this person is. So it's a way that you can piggyback and kind of jump over the existing brands that are already there and assert yourself there as the expert using your own competition. Does that make sense? Yeah.
All right, these are the last two. Yep.
So if you're doing talking head kind of videos, how would you use the pattern interrupt and that whole psychology if you're doing them live and you don't?
Oh, like when you're actually doing a live? It's a little bit more difficult with a live because a live is all about, and Dinesh can attest to this, it's all about just constant communication. So again, it's a matter of, first of all, your status, your actual headline comes into play a lot more then. Okay, of course. One strategy I always use, always make them comment where they're watching from. It's just all about engagement. But I've just found, simply put, with the lives is just going to lower production value and doing it on the phone, for me, is enough of a pattern interrupt because I'm usually going full production with my content. So I don't have a solid answer for that because lives have just been, they've just worked really well for me from the get-go. Some people just don't do as well in live. They just don't connect. But stopping every 2 to 3 minutes and re-engaging, asking them where they're watching from, being an auctioneer in the process, it seems to work pretty darn good.
Hi Thomas, I see your ads all the time, they're great, I learn a lot from them. Right now, my biggest thing, I'm spending around 20 to 25K a day on Facebook and Instagram. You said that you do a lot of the scripting. Do you do a lot of the copywriting yourself, or is that what you mean by scripting?
No, so with the scripting, so when it comes to the ads that I'm doing, there's no scripts. So
Okay.
I try to freestyle them because I have a solid, true feeling that is what is making the ads do so much better. I have tested with the teleprompter over non-teleprompter, and honestly, I will tell you, hand over fist, the ones that are unscripted convert so much better. Give yourself bullets, give yourself little highlights of what you want to talk about, put them on a whiteboard next to the camera so you just know your key points.
So
but if you go with the script, you need to know your CTA, you need to know your hook right out the gate.
Okay, so yeah, thanks for saying that. I mean, you need to know how to language a call to action. If you don't know how to do that, then you may have to memorize that and practice it and practice it and practice it and practice it and practice it. Tom's gotten way better. I mean, this guy's done his 20,000 hours.
You literally filmed my first VSL.
Maybe a little birdie might have said that to me too, but I didn't tell anybody.
I still have it on my computer. Brickwall VSL _34.
Brick wall, baby. Brick wall.
The other question I had was,
love it.
right now I'm fronting all of our front-end traffic, so my day is literally filled up with submitting ads, writing the copy for them, any content I need. I have my other partner who's the face of the company. I tell him what I need, but what do you do as far as ads guys? Do you have your own ads buyers, or is that you doing that?
Yeah, actually they're sitting right next to you. So
really?
these guys right
Okay.
here, those are my media buyers. So yeah, I mean, that's the thing is, I used to think that I needed to be super, you do need to be, as the talent or as the personality, you do need to be super close with your ads team. That's the thing, is it's really hard to have agency ad guys, and I know I gotta wrap this up. It's really hard to have agency ad guys when you are really a personality-driven brand. So in-housing it or
very
really
deep
knowing,
connection with
really
your
deep connection.
buyers. Yeah, totally.
How did you guys meet as far as
I've
the ads
known
guys?
Los for a long time.
Really?
So, yeah. So we brought him in as a partner a couple of years ago. So,
Okay.
yeah.
That helped. All right, let's give it up for Tom. Bam.